Everyone, and welcome tonight to another race, another round of One Hub Racing. Tonight we are at the Marina Bay Circuit in Singapore, live for the Precision Tier race. This is round 5 of the season, and obviously leading the championship. But before we get underway with that, I will start by introducing myself, Sam, who will be your main commentator tonight, and I am alongside Austin Smith, or otherwise known as Badgerman.
Yeah, good evening, Sam. And for those of you who are wondering why Owen is not here, he's been having some technical difficulties, so Sam has been kind enough to fill in for Owen tonight. Let's hope that Owen does get his PlayStation fixed. He does have 2 weeks' time for it, really, because we do have a season break coming up next week, where we're going to have a little bit of a different race coming along, and I'm looking forward to it very much.
Yeah, and obviously, like I said earlier about, obviously, of course, who's leading the championship. I'm going to get underway with the championship standards before we get on to anything else. I just need to pick them up. I've got the constructors here, but I haven't got the drivers. Where is the drivers ones?
They're right above, usually, on the website.
Right, I've got them here now. I literally couldn't find them for some reason. And
yeah, they're right above the constructors, usually.
Yeah, I've got them, and obviously, leading the way by 21 points, actually, now. So basically a race distance away, a race win away from Danestar in second place in the championship. You've been the person commentating over the season, like the whole season, Austin. What have you thought about the championship battle this season? And is there anyone you're kind of surprised about either not being up there or people being up there? Is there anyone?
That's a really good question. I gotta say, I think the dominance of Jano is what really surprised me. Winning 3 out of the first 4 races. That is just remarkable. I thought it was going to be a lot closer between Jano, Danestar, Carlsberry, Chris Lukey, who in the past have won championships before here at One Hub. I'm surprised that they're not up there, especially Lukey. Lukey is a former drivers champion, and to see him that far down the order, all the way down in P10 in the championship with only 16 points, is, I have to say, quite a lot of disappointment.
And obviously 72 points now behind the championship leaders. For drivers who are around that distance behind, do you say it's game over for them in the championship, or do you think they've still got like some air in them to get the championship, or do you think it's a bit impossible now?
I think the championship is going to play out ultimately between... I think the top 4, maybe 5 still have a shot at it. But as soon as we get to ART Ivan and then Sippy, Meloy, and so on and so forth, I think maybe Meloy, if he can start posting consistent results. He got a second place in China at his very first race, and then really unlucky in Austria with a spin early on in the race. But we know that Meloy has the pace, and I wouldn't be surprised if he somehow can get involved. Lukey, I don't know what's going on with Lukey. I think that's a question only he can answer. Something is not going right for him. And if you look at the results, I mean, the 12th and the 13th place to start the season, that's not the Lukey we know. The Lukey we know is usually on the podium, and he hasn't been there once this season in the first 4 races. He, on all the people on this grid, it's Chris and Lukey who have the most podiums by far over their One Hub careers. We're talking Chris, 30... Lukey, 28. The next best driver is Danestar, who's got 21. So both of them got him beaten by at least 7 podiums over their One Hub career. And to see Chris with 1 podium in the first race and since then just dropping off, and Lukey, I mean, he got close to it in Austria with a 4th place, but he's not been there. And it's really, really surprising.
And there's one person I want to mention, I'm not going to lie, who I've actually been quite surprised about. He's the only man, before this week, obviously the new drivers who came in, which we will mention furthermore in a minute, is Nexus Iceman, the champion of the podium tier. He's the only man on the grid tonight that has not got any points yet. And for a podium tier champion, what do you think about that? Do you think he's just fallen under pressure, or is he just having a bad spell?
Well, for one, he's missed 2 of the 4 races, and I think we have to cut him some slack in that regard. And the other 2 races, I think that he was just really unlucky. I think he does have the pace. It's just that I think maybe what has changed a little bit is that obviously last season, he wasn't completely dominating, but he always found himself at the very front of the pack, always. And that has obviously changed with, competition that is now right up there in pace with him, like Janel, Danestar, Carlsberry. And I think that's something that he's not used to, and he needs to get used to that. And it's going to take some time, but I think once he adjusts to that, I think we will see the old Nexus Iceman. And I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up, if we just take the second half of the season and crown like a second half champion, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Nexus Iceman being up there in terms of points in the standings.
And now we're going to go on to our new drivers this season, and obviously we've got 2 new drivers joining this week, not this season, apologies about that. We've got Tim Wentic first of all, who's moved down from the Pinnacle tier. This is because he is now going fully no assist, so that's no line included with that. He had actually a really consistent run in the Pinnacle tier, so I'm really interested to see how he does here in the Precision tier. We are just about to get underway, it looks like, as we've got 10 seconds remaining, and just before there, I'm just going to mention the other new driver, which is Wide Load Billy, who joins the Renault team, and we haven't seen him yet, so it's going to be an interesting night, and we should be able to get good information of this new driver who we've never seen before.
Yeah, regarding Tim Wentic, something very interesting. So you said he was very consistent in Pinnacle tier, and the results, for those of you who don't know, P7, P7, P10, and P9. He was never that far, he was never in contention for a win, but he was always up there. He was always scoring consistent points after points after points, and that in the Pinnacle tier. So moving down a tier here to Precision, I think is going to do him well. And in the Red Bull, you have to say, he was in the Alfa Romeo in the Pinnacle tier. Now he's in the Red Bull here. That's going to increase expectations, plus the move down is going to increase expectations further. So I would think that Tim might actually get involved in some battles for at the very least podium positions, if not wins.
Yeah, and obviously we're just going to talk about the track here as we wait for obviously drivers to get out. The track obviously is the Marina Bay Street Circuit. That's what its official track name is. It's 3 miles long, or 5 kilometers long. 31 laps of this track, so this is going to be a very long race, and especially Austin if there's rain. We've got 23 corners around this track, so a very technical track as well, anti-clockwise, and the lap record here is a 1 minute 41.9, which should be smashed in my opinion. But this race has obviously started way back in 2008, so we've now 12 races in real life. Would be. This is the. I think this is now the. It doesn't really matter. I'm losing my mind at the moment. It's just that I've been called the last moment and a bit everywhere edgy.
Yeah, it's all right. You mentioned it's anti-clockwise, and there's only 2 tracks on our shortened 10-race calendar which are anti-clockwise. The other being Brazil, the season finale. So it really, obviously for real life racing drivers, it makes a little bit more of a difference, because their neck muscles are usually trained, because most tracks on the full calendar are also clockwise, and so you only have a few tracks that are anti-clockwise, so the neck muscles are really trained for the G-forces on clockwise circuits, and anti-clockwise really throws them off a little bit. Obviously that's not the case here for our sim racers, but there's still something called the flow and the rhythm that drivers get into, and Singapore is probably the worst track when it comes to getting into a rhythm because it has so many sharp corners. And if you look at the final sector alone, all these 90-degree right and left-handers, it's really hard to get into a flow there because the moment you start accelerating, you're already braking again. You have really short acceleration times, and it's not like you can just let the car roll through and the car carries itself. No, you have to be constantly aware for a minute and 40 seconds at least in the race per lap. In qualifying it's going to come down probably to a minute and 35, and it's just so tricky here, and the walls are incredibly close as well.
And obviously that might fall a few drivers out. I think we noticed in the podium tier, I think Jess was talking about how she's experienced the wall already, so we might see a few drivers hit it here in the precision tier tonight. And obviously we don't want that because we want as many drivers to finish as possible. The tyres tonight, however, Austin, especially the hards, there is a lot of time loss per lap on the hard tyres, 2.4 seconds, and compare that to the mediums where it's only 0.8 to the softs.
Yeah, that is on fresh tires, obviously. So as you use the hards, they remain consistent, while the mediums and especially the softs fall off very quickly. So if you compare the softs to the hards, yes, the difference is 2.4 seconds if you use both of them new. But I would say arguably 5 or 6 laps into the stint, the softs and the hards might already be level. That's how quickly the soft tire degrades and wears out. Plus, one thing that isn't that I didn't put on my spreadsheet, which we mentioned my spreadsheets here on the stream quite a few times. One thing that isn't noted on there is that the soft tires really struggle with temperature. They overheat incredibly quickly, meaning in qualifying all the runners are going to struggle to keep the softs in working range and actually posting a good lap. The qualifying, if you qualify on the softs, is going to be more about the tire temperatures than it is about outright pace. And in the race, you want to get rid of them as quickly as possible because if you run 2, 3, 4 laps on these, they start to slide around like crazy, and you have absolutely no grip. So I've talked to a few drivers regarding their strategy, and what they've told me is the first pit window can start as soon as lap 1.
I've definitely spoke to a few drivers as well, and they have said the same as well, Austin. They've said they have plans to start the softs and maybe already take them into the pits at lap 1 and then try and do a medium-hard strategy, which would be an interesting one because obviously, as we pointed out, the tyres, but like you said also, the softs really struggle with temperatures and they get too much. I was just going to say, the first lap was not set by Scorpion despite him being the first person out. Meloy is the first person to set a lap of 35.1. is the fastest lap so far. Danestar then in second, and then I don't like this name change at all.
Just look, we've Owen and I have come to an agreement. I call him Kionosuke, but Owen always calls him Cloudy because that's what he was known as for a long time, Cloudy Balloons. And if you want to call him Cloudy, you just continue what Owen started.
Well, I always like to call him Asahina. That's what I know him for, so we all know him.
Yeah, he's had a couple of names.
Too many name changes for all of us. Let's just say that.
He started as Cloudy, then he became Aoi Asahina, or probably Aoi Asahina. Then it was Tenmu GJ, and now it's Kionosuke Nosato.
Oh, never change. And I'm just watching. I was on board with Wilo Billy there. I think he's just picked up some wing damage there, so a bit unfortunate for him on his first lap in the precision tier. Not what he wants to see, as Chris has invalidated the lap as he comes into the pits then. New Zealand Cam on a lap right now in his Haas, the number 2 driver, coming from the very difficult corner here. and onto one of the longest straights on the circuit, I believe. So, like you said, Austin, there's much more corners than straights here, obviously, on this track, and the straights aren't that long at all. So it's going to be very technical and difficult for drivers because they would take more of a longer setup. Calsbury there, maybe distracting Cam a little bit, but as he comes through a bunch of 90-degree corners at this track, I don't know what's happened there.
Ivan, I think it was Ivan. Just misjudged the corner there completely. That was turn 18, and that's a very tricky one, because if you just run a little bit too deep, you either take the emergency exit straight on, which has its own difficulties, or you just end up in the wall. So that's exactly what happened for Ivan here. He was trying to save it and wasn't able to, puts it in the wall, and not only ruins his own lap and his own car, as the front wing's completely gone off of that Mercedes, but also impairs some other drivers in the process.
And obviously that loses his momentum as well, probably coming into the night thinking a little bit more hyped up by him being in 7th place, which I must say, comparing to his season challenger last season, obviously champion of the podium tier, Iceman, it's been a little bit of a different turn for them too. We're not going to worry about that because, like you said, we shouldn't dishearten Iceman too much. He's only had 2 races, but if Ivan, obviously that's a little bit of a momentum stopper. If you get put in the wall or if you crash into the wall, it can ruin a little bit of momentum. Carlsbury's on a lap right now in the Renault. He's had a pretty decent season so far, 3rd place in the standings behind both Danestar and Yanol. I think the only 2 drivers to win races this season. He did get a disqualification though in France for forgetting to pit twice, which obviously is not very good on his record, but as I said with Tim in the Pinnacle tier, who's obviously now in the Precision tier, Carlsbury seems to be a very, very consistent, finishing 3rd, 4th and 5th, but we'll find out, see where he comes tonight.
Yeah,
that's the wall. He's hit the
that is front wing damage as well. You saw a little bit of the, I think it was the right side end plate just falling off there, just twirling around a little bit. So he's not going to go into the pits, interestingly. He decides to just try and... Yep, that's P3 with damage. Certainly interesting. But yeah, one thing I think we do have to mention is that obviously last week Austria was pretty much the polar opposite to this week. You saw in Austria the qualifying was incredibly close, mostly because the whole track really only has 9 corners and they're not that difficult. Here we have 23 corners, more than double that, in fact 2.5 times that. And that spreads out the field quite a bit. That's why you can see Meloy in 135.1s, and then we go down all the way to Kamke at 137.7. So and plenty of drivers haven't even posted lap times yet. But there you go. Next is Iceman, goes up to P3, and maybe this is the rebirth of the Iceman right here. Third place. Right now, exactly half a second on the millisecond. Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. Half a second behind Meloy. And one thing I want to mention, because I always like to do this, is I've obviously sifted through the leaderboards for Singapore on the PS4, the global leaderboards. And the first name I found, and I could not believe this at first, but obviously it does make sense to some extent, was Tim Wentink. Who's in the Red Bull right now, who's going through the first section of corners, and he was in 59th globally on the PS4 for this track, which is just remarkable. So I would expect a lot from him, and the last time we had someone who came into the league, who was, not into the league, but into our Precision tier, who was the best driver on the grid in the global leaderboards on the PS4. That was not too long ago, because that was Meloy 2 races ago, quite literally. And he finished P2, yeah, so I would say a podium is certainly on the cards for Tim, if not even a win. There's certainly a chance that if he is able to bring that kind of a pace to both qualifying and the race here, then he certainly has a chance at getting himself some really, really good points early on with his first race here in the Precision tier after coming down from Pinnacle.
However, Austin, he may have not set that lap with no line. Remember, he is running no line tonight, and obviously this is the reason why he's in the Precision tier and not the Pinnacle tier anymore, is because he wants to learn no line, and he wants to learn it in, I guess, a more competitive environment, because although obviously Pinnacle tier is really competitive, I think for him, I don't think he would say that his pace is probably not good enough to match it out with the Pinnacle tier drivers with no line at the moment, so it's more just of a learning curve. So although he's 59th for the world, Austin, we really don't know what he's like with no traction. I think Brettster's on the lap. Is ART Ivan higher up? Yes, he is. So we'll stick on board with Ivan. He's on the medium tyres here, and with 5 minutes left to go, Austin, is this maybe a strategy call from Ivan, maybe trying to see if he can go with the medium tyres and start on the medium tyres? You mentioned it as well.
Yeah, I think this might actually be his attempt to just avoid the medium tires altogether. Remember, the difference between fresh mediums and fresh softs is only 8/10, and with how far this field is spread out, and with the tire temperature difficulties that you get from the softs, even in qualifying, let alone the race, it's certainly an option to go for a medium lap right here and see if it brings you inside the top 10.
11th.
Close, but P11, yeah. But, you know, it's certainly an attempt, and even if not, I mean, if your strategy in the race does not include the softs, I mean, there is a case to be made for a medium hard strategy. If your strategy does not include the softs, then why even bother? I mean, at that point, you can just decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to try and qualify the best I can on the mediums, and if that's P11, I get fresh mediums at the start of the race, so, you know, it's a win-win situation, really.
Well, I did mention at the start, like, about drivers, there's a lot of different strategies. There was a lot of debate as Cam came on that invalidates, but there was a lot of debate about what tyres to start on. And I just said to him, I personally, if I was racing tonight, I wouldn't start on the softs, because, like you said, the softs, they don't go a long distance, and after like lap 1 or 2, they're already slower than the two other tyres, pretty much, and they just degrade so quickly.
Yeah, but there is something to be said for a either soft medium or soft medium hard strategy, depending on how long you can make those mediums last. I've talked to a couple of drivers who said they want to try soft medium, in fact. I think, yeah, it's tricky, but yeah, I mean, it's worth an attempt as well, because the mediums, if you can make them last, I think they do last around 15 to 17 laps, so with 31 laps overall, it might work. It might actually work, but it certainly is a challenge. However, if you get rid of these softs on lap 1, there's the chance of a safety car. On this track, probably more so than any other, maybe with the exception of Monaco. And that would obviously bail you out instantly. So if you start on the soft safety car, you come in, you don't lose that much time. It's all well and truly fantastic in your world. And you only have one more stop left to make, whereas all the drivers starting on mediums or hards, they have to do 2 still. They're not going to come in at the end of lap 1 as camera tires all the way down in P14. If Brett, Billy, and Tim post any times better than 137.7, that means Cam will start from the back of the grid. But yeah, just hope for a safety car, I think, and I would do that on this track. I would probably do that. I would start on the softs if I can, at least in the top 10 when I have to, pretty much. I would try to qualify as best I can, and then, you know, just hope for the safety car, and if it comes out, into the pits we go, and then 2 sets of mediums probably. Because if the safety car comes out, you have to remember as well, the safety car usually stays out for 3 laps, so you would get 2 laps under the safety car on your first set of mediums.
That's quality.
Yeah, that's quality running right there. 2 laps under the safety car on mediums means effectively your mediums last 2 laps longer, or if at least 1.
Yeah, well, we are expecting a pole lap time of between the window here on your spreadsheet. It says 34.7 to 35.1. We've already got a 35.0, so we've already beat the expected pole time. But can we potentially beat it? I wonder. Would be a good question to
well,
see.
the idea of my expected pole time window there, and I always give it 4 tenths, 2 in each direction, meaning I expect it to be a 134.9. I expect one driver at the very least to barely drop into the 134s. We didn't see that yet, so they're still slightly behind my expectation, but obviously I always give myself 2 tenths of a range, because it's never an exact science, and a driver may make a mistake here or there, and so that's why I always give it 2 tenths up and down. But 34, I would expect either Jano, Meloid, Danestar, one of those 3, I think, is probably going to get into the 134s. Maybe Tim Venting, maybe he's the one with his pace. If I remember correctly, his time on the global leaderboards is a 133, a low 133. And obviously in time trial you don't have tire temperature issues, because there is no tire temperature simulation. You just run on the soft tire in their best condition possible, and therefore you have to knock him down a little bit from that time. But if anyone has shown the potential to drop into the 134s, I think it's Tim.
I think I had to say second that there, Austin. I'll also look at Danestar right now. He's on a very good lap here. We'll just see the second set the split. He's 2 tenths up already. This means that he is on for it there. He needs to be in qualifying, really, because like you said, this with this track the grid could become very spread out very easily, and obviously Danestar wants to hope to be ahead of but was obviously still yet to set a lap as well. This is the optimum time where we see the fastest laps in, because they take down the fuel, and not only that, drivers also like to come out as late as possible, because the track is obviously at its optimum temperature now. So, and now we'll see Danestar cross the line. It's a 34.9, but Danestar on pole for now, but that could be beaten very, very soon. Who we got on board next?
Geno's coming through the final sector right now. Only has a couple corners left. I think he might be on to something here. Tim Venting, meanwhile, put his car in 4th place. Really good first qualifying for him. And Jano cuts the final corner a little bit too much. It would have been P1 if that lap had counted with a 134.8. But it didn't. 135.0 is the time that stands. And I think we pretty much... Brett's out of nowhere! And Konzo comes across the line as well to put a P5. Oh, look at this. We have the top 5 within half a second. It is really close still. That is amazing. We have the top 10 within a second, and King Jorrit in P11 is only 4 milliseconds away from that 1 second window. So I think we can count him. It's a second and 4 milliseconds. 1.004. But Konzo out of nowhere, and Brett even more so. So the Williams really wait for it until the last possible moment to completely shock us and take a 1-5 with Brett and Konzo.
Yeah, and I'm going to just say this now. This is going to be an amazing battle to see. We see, obviously, leading the championship, and we obviously have Danestar behind him as well in the championship, but he's ahead of him tonight, and I said how crucial that was, Danestar to be ahead of such a championship rival right now. He doesn't want running away with more points than him tonight. It's crucial he finishes ahead of him tonight. But Brett out of nowhere, Austin. And also, like I said, I'm going to just say this now, he didn't set a lap tonight before then. That was literally the first lap he set. For him to get it on pole position as well, that's an incredible performance there from Brett, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, Brett has had one pole position before this season. That was in Bahrain. And that didn't end well at all. P17. He did get the fastest lap point outside the top 10. I remember OneHub being one of the very few leagues, or pretty much the only league, at least that I know, that gives a fastest lap point inside and outside the top 10. And yeah, apart from that, I mean, Brett got a third place in France and the 3 fastest lap points outside the top 10. But he did get a pole position before, gets another one here. Let's hope this time works a little bit better for him.
Well, let's hope. Obviously, Brett he's one of those drivers who came into the season so passionate and so full of so much like want and need to perform. And, he's had a very underwhelming season, in my opinion. And obviously coming down from the Prestige... Oh, my word, Austin. We were waiting. We were waiting for some sort of rain, because I swear in every single league race now, Austin, you just see rain at this track. And it's either in the race or in qualifying. And I was waiting for it to happen, and here we go. It looks like we're on the inters. It looks like if you look at the garage of Ivan, you've got the intermediate tyres, so it's not too bad. But I definitely know from experience, because I'm a good mate of his, that Brett does not like the wet, so he's set it on pole. But he really needs to get used to these wet conditions, which has always been a bit of a burden for him compared to the dry conditions.
Yeah, meanwhile, NZI Cam has just gotten himself a 5-second penalty for readying up before Scorpion did. Again. Yeah, he already got 2 penalty points this season, and I think 1.5 just from readying up too early. So that's another 1 point. I think I don't know how they count it if someone does it twice and then doesn't do it and then does it again. So he leaves a gap in between. I don't know how they count it, if it's half a point or 1, because he is a repeat offender, but not consecutively. So that's for the stewards to figure out. But let's go through the grid. We have Brett Sir on pole position for the 2nd time this season, Danestar in P2, which is where he finished twice this season, and also with a win in Bahrain. He started it off this season. Janua, a 3-time winner, on P3. This is fantastic. Mello P4, Konzo P5, Tim Entic in 6th on his debut here in the Precision tier. Ivan P7, and next is Iceman, dropped all the way down to P8. That's quite unlucky. He did very well. Does not get rewarded. NZI Cam in P9. Then we have Chris in P10, and Chris is an interesting one because he said in the pre-race interview he likes the rain, he enjoys the rain. He wanted to qualify P8. That didn't happen, P10 only. But he wants a P5 in the race, and if he enjoys the rain, as he said, I think there's a good chance he's going to find himself in the top 5 come the end of the race.
Yeah, and I think this could be an interesting one for all the top 10, really, and just everyone on the grid, because some people favour the conditions and some of them don't favour the conditions. Now we have to just refer to, obviously, the sponsors of One Hub Racing, which is Next Level Racing, which is a wheel, I think it's a wheel stand supplier, which...
They have a lot. They have racing cockpits, wheel stands, flight simulators, if you're into that, motion platforms, and accessories.
Well, it really is next level, isn't it? And obviously you can follow them on Twitter and at Next Level Racing as well. I think it's pronounced NXT Level Racing, I think so. But you can follow them on Twitter as well. So there's a lot on offer.
Or go to the website nextlevelracing.com. No dashes in between, just one word, nextlevelracing.com.
And obviously, before we get this race underway, we also have to say what is on offer for the drivers who obviously win the championship, or even get in the top 3 of the championship. Now, remember, the winner of the championship gets a wheel stand supplied by Next Level Racing, and they also get a trophy from One Hub. In second place, they get, I cannot 100% remember what second and third place get. I think they get some merchandise from One Hub Racing, but I know the constructors get a merchandise t-shirt from One Hub, so it's also good to have some good teamwork, which is what Konzo and Brettster have tonight in 1st and 5th. Also, let's not count out the Red Bulls, 2nd and 6th place as well. So good teamwork could always pay off at the end of the season here in One Hub Racing, and obviously a lot is on stake and a lot is to offer. Anyway, we will get underway with this race in a few seconds, just waiting for the lights to appear up on our screens. And here we go then. We've got 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights for the Singapore Grand Prix. We are underway here tonight, and who gets the best start of everyone? It looks like has pulled over to the inside, but Danestar gets a beautiful start. Brett's moving all the way down to 4th place, but Danestar with the early lead into the wet race and into the first 3 corners, and it's very tricky in these conditions. 2nd place is Malloy.
Yeah, we have a
3rd.
couple slow runners already all the way behind. Chris dropped all the way down to P16. Billy is still in last, but I think he just took it very slow on the start, maybe as did Chris, because they don't have any damage, but they just went really slow through the first section of corners there, turns 1 to 3, and really interesting to see. They dropped. Chris dropped 6 positions from the start. Nexus Iceman also dropping all the way down to 14th. I remember he started in P8. He also dropped 6 positions. So really not going well for red liveried cars. Both Nexus Iceman and Chris dropping a whole lot of places, and then Brett obviously as well. Really not a good start here in the wet. Probably got a lot of wheel spin. And speaking of wheel spin, Brett is around and run into there by Ivan, and thankfully he ghosted. We have a virtual safety car, and what happened was I hope that the camera saw this and caught this, but what happened was Brett ran into the back of Meloy, who for some reason slowed down on the bridge there. And Brett couldn't react in time, and then he hit the back of Meloy and then spun into the wall, and then obviously, as you saw, got collected by Ivan there. He's all the way down in P16 from pole position. It's the same blueprint as he suffered through in Bahrain. For some reason, maybe these races in Asia they don't like him. I think it's not that he doesn't like them. I think they don't like him.
I think it's the season overall. He's just had a lot of bad luck, Brett, and obviously maybe some mistakes that he was making, obviously, of course, but some of them has just been down to bad luck. And as you said, Melo probably. I think the thing is, in these wet conditions, in these intermediate conditions, Melo perhaps had a little bit of a struggle of traction there and may have had to lift a little bit, which may have caught Brett out a little bit. So I'm sure it wasn't intended from the McLaren driver, but who knows. I'm just going to mention Tim Wentig now up to 4th place, so he's jumped 2 positions already, and so I thought it would be quite difficult adjusting in these conditions, obviously now that he's running no line, but he's doing pretty well at the moment. But obviously Danestar out in the lead by 1.6 seconds already there, Austin, so he's had an absolute mega start compared to everyone else.
Yeah, and it could be that the VSC restart helped him a little bit there as well, because sometimes depending on where the safety car restart happens, certain driver when they're on a certain piece of track, especially at the very beginning of a straight, they get a huge advantage over someone who's still in the previous corner. So that might have been the case there for Danestar, and why he got that big of a gap as well. But meanwhile, we had 7 drivers all the way from Carlsberry to Brett coming into the pits to put on another set of inters as Janu runs really deep into turn 14. I thought that was his race over, honestly. I was on board with him there. I thought that was his race over and done with. I don't know how he kept it out of the wall there. Locked up in the rain and just started sliding straight on, and somehow still kept it out of the wall and no damage, and can live to fight another day. But Meloy is putting him under a lot of pressure, the McLaren behind him. That's the one thing about this McLaren, it's hard to not see it even in the rain. That papaya orange, very, very visual as Janul is sliding all over the place.
I think
he somehow controls this car.
I think it may be a little bit of mixed emotions, really, seeing how far Danestar's got ahead. It's just it's probably just ambition, isn't it? He's leading the championship, and his main championship rival at the moment has literally broke clear from him, and he's just ambitious to catch up, needs to catch up because he knows how much this championship may mean to him. Obviously here in one-up racing, but Meloy sticking with him. He's dropped back a little bit, but Tim Wentic keeping up with him, and same with Konzo as well. And look how big the gap is behind, and there's actually a battle side by side. New Zealand Cam and Nasato or Asahina or Cloudy, whichever one you want to call him, they used to go for an almighty battle. Round the outside goes Asahina, but it's not going to work as Cam gets up to 6th place here. Great move from the hatch driver, but Asahina, this is not a right move, and that was almost but certainly going to happen.
Oh, and Chris running into Cloudy as well there. I'm sure
We're all
doing
well. This, yeah.
But thankfully he gets going again. But for Chris, I think he's not going to be happy with this one. And I think the same can be said probably for Cloudy and for Cam as well. Because I mean that was the battle that started all of this.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't a move that was on there for Cloudy, and ultimately he paid the price, and unfortunately so did Chris, who really Chris he had nowhere to go. It's a blind corner, this at turn 9, and you really can't see what's behind it, and in this case it was just very, very unlucky that he ran into the side of the racing point. Question is Chris going to come into the pits now to repair that front wing as Meloy goes fastest on the lap, 155.9, and if you just there you go, Chris does come in to repair that front wing. That's one of his 2 stops already done. So that's the one thing he can be happy about. He's already got one stint and one pit stop in the books. But that's about it.
I just want to mention Wilo Billy, and I know he's just got a penalty here, but I want to mention something positively. He's up to P8, and don't get me wrong, I swear he started right near the back in 9 places. The same with Cam K-Mama, who's actually going to get past his teammate, New Zealand Cam here maybe. Oh, a little bit of a lock up there, going side by side. Cam going very wide here. The 2 Cams, the 2 Hasses fighting together, but I think the American Cam K-Mom does come out ahead. New Zealand Cam though down to 7th place, and he's been struggling in the wets. Look how much he's struggling. He's almost losing the car completely there, and he's lost a hell of a load of time out of that corner alone. But Konzo still close to Tim, who's lost quite a lot of time to Meloy, who is literally on the pace right now, right at the back of Yanol here. These 2 been fighting all race long so far.
Yeah, I think Meloy hasn't really been fighting too much with Janul, as there's a little tap to the rear. Janul is not going to appreciate that flags. For one.
Ivan's gone. Ivan's gone, I think.
Yeah.
He's gone spinning. Yep.
Yeah. That is very unfortunate there. He's in a really bad position there. Finally gets out of that. It is a very tricky corner. It is one of the corners mentioned in the stewards briefing, turn 8. Because it is so easy to run wide there, and if you try to battle there, oftentimes if you're the guy on the outside, the only thing you're going to hit is the wall, because it is such a tightening corner on the exit, and the wall just comes so quickly there. So Ivan, I don't know if he was battling with someone, but he landed right in that wall that was mentioned in the very stewards briefing before this race.
And Meloy losing a little bit of time now to I definitely noticed it on the exits. Usually gets the worst exits of the 2, but there got a better exit. So, but still lagging so much to Danestar at the moment. 2.5 seconds as he goes wide there. This may open an opportunity for Meloy, who obviously in the McLaren seat for his 3rd race this season is really performing well here.
Yeah, however, I think Meloy isn't really looking to fight all too much right now. He sees that Danestar is pulling away, and he doesn't want that to happen. He wants a win. Obviously, every race driver is trying to get a win in their race, and that's not different from Meloy. And I think he's thinking strategically here. Don't battle with Jano right now. They're both pretty much on the same pace. Just work with him instead of against him, and try to catch Danestar. This race still has more than 26 laps left to go. That's a long time, with lap times of around 1 minute 54. we're talking at least 50 minutes of this. That would be the case if A, it keeps raining, and B, there's no safety cars or virtual safety cars, which is a pretty big assumption on this track.
Yeah, a track that's obviously got loads of corners, and obviously some drivers may tend to get a little bit desperate as well. We obviously saw with Asahina early on, or Nasato, if you do not understand who we're on about. But anyway, these two still battling. We've got Konzo keeping with Tim Wentig, who's lost a lot of time to second and third place now, so 2.7 seconds to be exact there. There's a lot of gaps starting to form here, but there's still a few battles here going on. There's a little battle for 13th place as well. Let's just check it out. Let's see what's going on down there. I think this could be a potential battle for a higher positions. It's got Luki, Iceman, and Quace. You've got the two Ferraris and one of the Alfa Romeo drivers. Going to be difficult for Iceman to get past here, because Luki is probably going to try and help Quace out as well, close in, and Chris obviously in 15th place. They both want to move together as Luki cuts the corner very much there through the final few corners. There's not much action going on here, but there is Chris closing in on Iceman, probably a little more ambitious through that corner, but loses a lot of time on the exit there, but nothing really happening in this battle at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it needs to be mentioned that the top 8 are all still without a pit stop, whereas everyone else, P9 and below, have all made their first pit stop. And I think Ivan already have done too. Yeah, Ivan could theoretically try and go to the end. However, these intermediate tires really only last around 15 laps around this track, maybe 16, 17 if you can stretch them out, but they're not going to last that much longer. So really I think the strategy for the front runners is try and go 10, 11, 12 laps, just make it 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So lap 10, lap 21, I would say. Maybe lap 10, lap 20, because you have to remember, obviously, with less fuel in the car, the tire wear goes down a little bit because the car is lighter. And so there's less strain on the cars, or on the tires, rather. And so as Jano does go into the pits very early here, lap 6.
I'm going to just... Wait, continue, yeah. Sorry.
That's not what I was expecting here, as I just said. Lap 10, lap 20.
Well, I'm going to assume something here. I'm wondering if they've been told that the rain is going to stop in, let's say, for example, the next 10 minutes, or is it a full wet race? I just saw what it is. Janel went back on the intermediates, so I doubt that if it was going to be heavy rain, then yeah, he would be on the full wets by now. But no, I saw what it is, and Janel apparently damaged his front wing because he had a front wing change in the pits, and I think that's why he came in a little bit early. Obviously, in that situation, yes, he lost around 8 seconds from that front wing change, but I think he also gained a lot from not having to drive around with a broken front wing anymore. And even if it's slightly damaged, in the rain, that kind of a time loss, that kind of aerodynamics loss is exacerbated by the conditions. Yeah, we have Billy and Nasato battling with each other right now. Billy seemed to struggle on those intermediates a bit. Nasato as well through these corners. Very difficult section of corners here. Can get a lot of wheel spin, as you said earlier, which may have led to what happened with Brettster with wheel spin. But Billy seemed to be confident on the throttle right now, up in 6th place, and down to 7th is Nasato. I think they've both moved up places though from the start of this race, so they've both had really good starts. Billy's moved up 11 places, but bear in mind he still has to make his first pit stop. I wonder if it will dry up though. That is my question.
Yeah, the one interesting thing that I have on my spreadsheet that I always rely on is the pit stop loss, which is 25.5 seconds in the dry. However, we're not in the dry right now, so you don't lose 25.5 seconds. You lose less, because obviously the cars around you are running at a slower pace. They have to brake earlier for corners. They're generally just running around at a slower pace, so you don't lose that much time, because the speed in the pit lane is still the same for you. You're still stuck at, I think, is it 50 miles an hour here?
I think this was 37, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I think as well it was 37. So 60 kilometers an hour. And you're still stuck at that same speed, whether it's raining or whether it's dry. That doesn't matter. But the cars around you are obviously going to be slower, so you lose less than 25.5 seconds. I would, if I had to estimate, probably 24 seconds, maybe 23. So the rain gives you about 1.5 seconds, 1.5 to 2.5 seconds there. As Cloudy trying to look to the inside of Billy there, it wasn't on. And I hope that Cloudy has learned a little bit from his previous situation with the incident was with Chris, but the spin came from fighting with NZI Cam there. So let's hope he learned a little bit from that and doesn't try it again.
He's gained a lot out that corner with Billy, and he's going for the inside line. He's just trying to get early on the throttle, but Billy seems to be getting on that throttle rather much more earlier than him right now, as we see Cam get another 3-second time penalty. I've seen that name pop up 2 or 3 times, and that's not a reference that there's 2 Cams in this lobby. But I've seen him pop up a few times.
Yeah, meanwhile, can I just direct your attention to the gap between Dainstar and Meloy? Remember when Meloy was behind... When Meloy was behind Janul, that gap was almost 3 seconds. It has come down to under 2.
Oh, he must be licking his lips because he knows he's quicker than Meloy. We're seeing the tiger be unleashed here, really, from that McLaren, and he's really started to close in on the Red Bull driver of Dainstar. Tim will move up to 3rd currently, obviously, as you know. Pitted, but these guys are going to be going a little longer on those intermediates. Konzo's been battling with Tim, but he's not been able to get close enough to pressure a move, although he closes in quite a bit there as he breaks much later than Wentink. However, Meloy 1.7 seconds away now, so he continues to close on Dainstar, but no real threat for Dainstar right now, as we see wide load Billy and Nasato side by side, breaking later for Nasato. Around the outside he goes. Billy leaves him no room. He still stays there though, and is he going to launch it down the inside? Yes, he is. Oh, it's going to be close. It's not really a corner you go side by side at, because the car on the outside is quite difficult. And then again, it's still the same with this corner, but very good racing for these two as they still stay side by side here into this section. And I think Nasato's going to get the move done on the outside. It's still side by side here into the corners. Oh, it's very close. Banging wheels a lot in this corner. Both terrible camera angles. Thank you so much. Anyway, down the inside, Billy has got the inside line. He should have the better exit here. They're still side by side, you know. This battle is not helping him out at all, really, because Carlsbury is now right behind him as well. So Carlsbury's going to be pressurising for it. Billy around the outside. The Sato should get the move done now, and I think Carlsbury may get the move done as well, as they're now side by side, the 2 Renault drivers. And these two are... This is just incredible. This battle of 3 cars right now. Dainstar pits, by the way, so Meloy is going to be leading. So he's tried. He's probably seen the gap close for Meloy, and he's probably thinking, I need fresher tyres to keep me going. And I think Meloy may react the next lap, and we'll see what the gap is. I believe it was 1.7 the last time I checked. Oh, Billy's everywhere. He's lost a lot of time to the 2 leaders ahead of him, Carlsbury and Nasato.
Oh. Konzo is in the pits. Okay, okay. The game was glitching a little bit. I thought for a second that Konzo's pit crew wasn't ready because they were just running up, but then he was released so quickly that I think that was just a visual glitch on my end. That's why I was a little bit excited there. I thought that Konzo's pit crew just forgot about him, and that would have cost him a lot of time, obviously. But instead, they were ready for him, just not on my screen.
Carlsbury is now close to Nasato. Is he going to launch an attack? Stays inside the Racing Point driver. Round the outside, Carlsbury goes. This is very difficult, really. You're always going to go side by side through here. He does have the inside line into this corner. Is he going to brake later? Oh, it's close racing between the 2 of them. We saw this with Billy, the other Renault driver. Yeah. And I think Carlsbury's got it done around the outside. That is a really good move there from Carlsbury to get the move done. And up to 5th he goes. 5 seconds... 5 seconds behind the leader Dainstar. However, like you said, Meloy, we don't know if he's in the lead right now after he pits, because who knows? He could be in the lead.
Yeah, who says you can't overtake in F1? Who says you can't overtake on these street circuits? They're too narrow. You know, the straights aren't long enough. Doesn't matter. First we had Kionosuke fighting with Billy. Now we had Kionosuke fighting with Cosberry. Just fantastic driving there from everyone involved, both the Renaults and the Racing Point.
Meloy reacts.
Just absolutely fantastic. Yeah, Meloy in the pits now. That means Tim as well in the pits. Cam as well in the pits. So Danestar, 25.2 seconds.
Oh, this is going to be close.
This is going to be
close.
Very, very close.
It's Meloy
Yellow
out.
flag sector 2 and 3. That is...
Oh, that's a Ferrari.
Lukey.
Oh, there's a little
Meloy
bit.
comes out. Oh my goodness!
He's gone
Danestar
wide.
gets him. Yep, Danestar gets him around the outside there. But look at how close this is now. Remember, when Danestar came into the pits, it was 2 seconds. It's 1 now.
It's less than 1 now. It's 9/10. Looking at the delta just now, it's just creeping up and down at the moment. But Meloy showing he has the pace over Danestar at the moment. I think Danestar needs to wake up a little bit because he's got some competition finally, like he did at the start of the race where he just blistered away from But now Meloy is here. Meloy is now going to be a significant challenge for Danestar because of how quickly he closed in on him even before the stops.
Yeah, Meloy was a significant challenge in the first 2 races as well. That time for Janul, who obviously with his front wing change earlier is dropping a little bit off the pace. They're 8 seconds now. The gap to Danestar, 7.2. The gap to Meloy, and also around 3 seconds the gap to Cosberry. But yeah, Meloy shows he has some pace. And if he had shown up to this series, to the Precision tier at the very start of the season, we'd be talking about him as a title contender.
King J's lost some wing.
Yeah.
He's been battling with Scorpion a little bit just there. And unfortunately he's lost his wing, so it's probably likely that battle's over. Now we've got a battle for 13th place now, as I think Nasato has just come out of the pits. He's just behind Bretster. Billy's lost a lot of time to these, by the way. Let's just see what happens.
Yeah, just to quickly talk about King Jorrit there. Usually when we get our pre-race material in terms of who's on the way up, who's on the way down, what's the track like, etc. We also get one driver mentioned who's hot and one driver mentioned who's cold. And King Jorrit is currently the driver who was mentioned who's cold. 11th place in Bahrain, 14th in France. He got his singular point in China with a 10th place, and his first DNF of the season in Austria. Just generally not good results from him this year, or this season so far. And he does go into the pits. Brett meanwhile retires.
Yeah, he's... I don't think he's crashed out. I think he's either got wind damage or something. He's still going on the track.
Yeah, the first DNF for Jorrit last week in Austria came because he crashed into the pit wall. Not under his own fault. His controller just decided that it was time to crash into the pit wall. So, yeah, first DNF of the season came for him as a controller malfunction. Virtual
safety car now. Oh, we've got a bunch of people retiring. That's a van who's
Ivan
lost a car here.
Yeah.
And that's probably not what he wants.
And I'm going to tell you right now, this is when I would pit right now. If I was Lukey, for example, I'd go into the pits now. He's already done 1 pit stop. Oh, no, he's done 2. Okay, I wouldn't go in then. But, no, for everyone else, if you come towards the pit lane right now and it's still under virtual safety car, go in for your second pit stop. Or, although, you can't... No, don't, because you can't... I just realized you can't take the intermediates that long. You can't take them 20 laps. 15 to 17 is their range. But I'm going to say this is why you should wait with your first pit stop. This is why it would have been smarter for some of these drivers to just stay out a little bit longer, because look at where Danestar is right now that we're back under green, coming onto the start finish straight. If someone had stayed out, add 25 or take 25 seconds away, someone 25 seconds ahead of Danestar would be in the pits by now, would have left the pits by now, but under VSC.
Yeah.
So they would have gained a whole lot of time and would have had the first pit stop just like everyone else. And that would have been the strategy. Just stay out as long as possible, hope for a safety car or VSC. Now they're going to have to wait for another one, hopefully, I think at the earliest by lap 16. A full safety car maybe by lap 14, 15, but a VSC by lap 16. And then obviously be in the right spot on the track that you can actually go for a pit stop under the VSC.
Well, obviously, let's look how close this battle is now. Meloy, 4 tenths now behind Danestar. Only 2 laps ago when he came out, he was 1.1, weren't he? He was like basically 1 second behind. He's gained 6 tenths on Danestar, showing he's dominantly quicker at the moment. Danestar needs to pick up his game if he wants to win this race at the moment, because Meloy is definitely on his game tonight, and Danestar obviously on his game as well, but Meloy just really showing pace at the moment, and maybe this is a win that may be fought for Danestar, maybe not as easy as he supposed in the first few laps.
Yeah, for Meloy, I think it's interesting to note here, this would be his first ever win in one hub. He has had 2 podiums, he has had a second place this season already in China, and he's had another podium so far in a previous season. I think that was not season 14, I think he's been with one hub earlier than that. I can't really remember when that was, but he has had 2 podiums so far, but never a win. Second place was his best result in his one hub career, and right now he's looking like he is destined to get that first place and get his first victory ever here in one hub.
Yeah, and obviously, let's not forget penalties are a thing though, Austin. I mean, I don't think these two have got penalties. I haven't seen them yet, but
I can look at them.
One of them can pressure each other into a mistake, and if Meloy makes a mistake here, he's got to gain another 3 seconds, but if Danestar makes a mistake, then it could be difficult around the outside. Goes Meloy, talking about it, they're side by side in this corner. Danestar aggressively defending the inside line, but it don't really matter because Meloy's going to have it in the next corner, and he takes the lead of the race. And now Danestar's going to sit behind a little bit, and if a safety car comes out here, Austin, then Danestar has lost the position here, so there's no safety car because I think the Ferrari of Luki has got going again, but if it was a safety car there, then Meloy obviously making the move at the right time, but no safety car, which would relieve Danestar a little bit when he saw that yellow flag, so you'd probably be like, please no safety car, but then again, 4 lap olds enters, but he would have made his second stop then, so maybe it would have worked.
I think everyone should have had to make their second stop then, because obviously you gain a lot of time, and Meloy gets a penalty. And I just had a look, that is not his first, that is his second 3-second time penalty, so he's on 6 seconds right now.
Did you see Danestar's?
0. He's on 2 warnings, so he's close, but he doesn't have a penalty just yet. He's only on 2 warnings. Got 1 in lap 5 and the other in lap 12, so only 2 laps ago. But yeah, both of these were just corner cut warnings. I think I'm gonna have to check, because sometimes they show there's a warning, but then it's not for exceeding track limits or anything like that, but for crossing the white line on the pit exit or something like that. Meloy, for example, get one of those. But I think Danestar up to exceeding track limits.
Well, obviously 3 seconds would not help Danestar, but obviously having 6 seconds already after only 15 laps, you've still got halfway of the Grand Prix to go. That is not good for Meloy at all, because technically if he was to record the same record in the second half, that's 12 seconds worth of penalties, and if Danestar was to record the same, that would only be 3 seconds, wouldn't it? So that's a 9-second difference, Austin, so it's going to be very difficult for Meloy to keep that lead if he's going to have the same record. Thinking about overtakes though, right now, Cam K Mum looking for an overtake on Tim Wentig, who's starting to slip down the grid a little bit. The Red Bull driver going to stick behind Cam now as Cam makes the move done around the inside, and there is, I think that's Nexus Iceman. He has not had a great season this season, has he, at all? Such misfortune, you can argue as well. really, for Iceman, who has obviously come in as a champion. A different environment for him as he's not at the front. A very aggressive dive-bombing move there from Sato as he goes side by side with Quace. Quace down the inside, needs to give him space, mustn't ram him into the wall. Still side by side into the corner. Oh my word!
Yeah. That is Chris's driving, and I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up in the steward's office, because I think Chris was just way too aggressive there. Decides to, well, as another Ferrari driver once said, play bumper cars or something. There you go.
Oh,
Sato decided to maybe, I don't know if that was a revenge move or something, but it certainly wasn't a smart move there. But yeah, the two of them really not liking each other on track, at least. I don't know how they get along off track, but on track you can see there's no love lost between the two as Carlsberg goes for his second and final pit stop. So he's going to have to make these Inters last another 15 laps then, or 16 laps even. Which certainly possible, but he's going to struggle towards the end. But yeah, that fight there between Chris and Kinosuke, especially the move into turn 9 by Chris, I think this one's going to end up in the steward's office. And it's not the first time that we've had this with Chris. I remember last season in the precision tier. He's had an incident in Italy where I think he even got disqualified for his on-track behavior.
Oh, he's got very wide there and almost putting the car straight in the wall. Him with Nasato at the moment, these two have been quite aggressive with each other this last lap alone. And as you said there about Chris, and as actually Nasato has a run on Chris here. Chris mustn't squeeze him into the wall. He's pushing him and he's out. Yeah, that's poor from Chris there. Didn't leave much space
oh wow, and that's a retirement as well from Kinosuke there. Decides to pull into the exit there, into the emergency exit, and just he's retired. Very, very unfortunate, but yeah, Chris's driving has been the topic of the precision tier for quite a few times, and it seems like that's going to happen again.
Yeah, it's hard racing.
You have to remember you can only get up to 8 penalty points. Thankfully for Chris, he's currently sitting on 0, so he can afford a little bit. But at the same time, depending on how severe that penalty is, that might get him already up to. I don't want to take the judgment for the stewards, but that could already get him up, not up to 8, obviously, but certainly much closer to the 8 penalty point barrier.
It's been 2 laps since Meloy overtook Danestar, and he's literally 3.5 seconds already clear of him. My words, how quickly he got away from, I guess, what could actually potentially be a championship rival, because Meloy is on the pace tonight, and he's actually been on the pace in all 3 of the races, really. So the McLaren driver may be looking for a late championship hunt, maybe looking for a bunch of wins towards the end of the season to bring it back up. But this could be a really good win for Meloy at the moment. But Danestar right now, as long as he doesn't get another penalty, he's still in the zone to win this race. However, Meloy seems to be getting away very, very quickly. Now 4 seconds clear of his rival in tonight's race. And back up to 3rd place as well on the 10-lap old intermediate. Still yet to make a stop. A second stop.
Yeah, I gotta say, Meloy with an absolutely fantastic performance. This is one for the ages right here. This is going to be an instant classic. And if Meloy does somehow get involved into the championship battle, he's only sitting on 18 points because of the bad result in Austria, where he only finished P11 and didn't even get the fastest lap, so not even that point went his way. So only the 2nd place in China really counting for him right now. But if he gets this win, he's up to 43, and he's knocking on the door of all the championship contenders: Janul, Danestar, Konzo, Chris, and he's going to overtake Chris. In fact, if he gets the win here, he would be up to 43, and Chris would have to get at least a podium to stay ahead then. which it looks very unlikely at this point. But
5 seconds.
I gotta say, if Meloy somehow gets involved, somehow fights for the championship at the last race at Brazil, we're gonna look back at this race right here. We're gonna say this is where Meloy was made. This is where his journey really began. Forget the second place in China. We knew he was good there. But this right here, this is absolute and total domination.
Well, 5 seconds clear at Danestar and 3 laps, I think it is as well. That's just incredible in itself. With, I'm trying to think who's moved up a lot of places since this. I think one person we need to look at right now is Carlsberg. He's moved up 5 places. However, he's set to move up more because I believe everyone ahead of him has to make 2 stops.
He's already on 2 stops. Yeah, he's already on 2 stops. Everyone else around him only on 1, and especially the guys ahead of him. He might actually end up being second. He might end up ahead of Janel. Probably, actually. He will end up ahead of Janel.
He could actually end up ahead of Danestar. If you saw at the bottom there a minute ago, he got the fastest lap, so he's on the pace right now. If he keeps up with this, he could even beat out Danestar when Danestar decides to pit. Meloy's 6 seconds clear, so like even if Danestar doesn't get a penalty, if Meloy gets no more penalties, Meloy will win this race already. This is just iconic. I've never seen a driver just be so into it compared to everyone else. I've never seen this before. 6 seconds in like 4 laps.
Yeah, I gotta say this really is just remarkable. If you remember, Ayrton Senna had a couple of races where he was just absolutely killing it in the rain, where he was just so much faster than everyone else, including previous world champions. And I think this brings me back to those kinds of races from Ayrton Senna. This is how much better Meloy is here in the rain at Singapore. Absolutely amazing to watch.
I think Danestar at this point, he just wants to settle in for P2 at this point, because I don't think he's really going to be disheartened by it. I mean, when Meloy got past, I think he already knew that Meloy was superiorly quicker, and I think this is just showing how quick Meloy is, and he's a threat. You know, he is a threat to these drivers leading the championship right now. And although we're halfway through the season, if you can win 2 or 3 races in a row, you are up there with them already. That's the thing.
And remember, you get 25 points for win 26 if you also get the fastest lap. So there's certainly a possibility here that if you get if you get a couple wins under your belt, as we see with Janel. I mean, Janel's got 3 wins in a row. That's why he's leading the championship by 21 points now. And same with Danestar. He got a win and 2 second places. So 3 times either on the top step or the second step of the podium. And that's why he's so far away from everyone else. If Meloy can get that kind of a run going, and especially if we look at Janel right now, he has made his second pit stop, so he's in P7 right now. But with a couple drivers still having to make their pit stop, I think he's in a net P4, as he has rejoined the track way behind Carlsberg. So we're talking net P4 if Konzo, Cam, and Tim are all gonna fall behind him again. But that means that's only 12 points. You get so much for a win with 25, and he's gaining 13 points. If he does that every race, if Meloy does that every race in the final 6 races, he overtakes Janel in the final race by 8 points.
Wow, that would be incredible to see, wouldn't it? Just imagine it. The scenes. This driver has just come in. I mean, except for those who have been in One Hub, obviously for a few seasons now, not many people know Meloy's name, and he's just come out of nowhere. He's clicked his fingers. It reminds me of last season in the podium tier. We saw Boris YV last season. He was roughly the midfield driver in the podium tier last season. Midway through it, and then he just clicked, and he was at the front challenging the eventual champion, Nexus Iceman, who just pulled away from everyone. But in the final few rounds, especially, he really proved difficult. And I think this reminds me of him because of how good Boris actually turned out to be in the end. So Meloy really starting to remind me of last season, really.
Meanwhile, second pit stop for Meloy. He's going to rejoin. Oh, he's not going to rejoin in a good position there behind Konzo and Cam, probably. So in P4, what it would be then. Ahead of Carsberry, obviously. But behind those two, let's see if they come into the pits. No, Konzo stays out. Cam comes in, at least one. So that makes it a bit easier for Meloy, who's already back on his way out of the pits. But there comes Konzo. Yep, and Meloy will be behind him. The hope for Meloy here at this point is that Konzo, A, is not going to be too much of a problem. So he's not going to hold him up too much. Konzo himself is rather quick, so shouldn't be that much of an issue. But we've seen how quick Meloy was compared to everyone else. So, you know. But the other hope is that Meloy probably hopes right now that Konzo goes into the pits at the end of this lap. So he's not going to become an issue anyway. Because Cam, who was behind Konzo, just went in on an attempted undercut. So if Konzo goes in now, he holds the undercut to one lap, meaning he can still, hopefully for Konzo in that regard, remain ahead of Cam and in what would be, I think, a net P5, if I'm not mistaken right now. Although it is easy to lose track right now with everything going on, but I think, yeah, that would be a... So, Dainstar, Meloy, Carsberry, General... that would be net P5. No, Konzo as well. Yeah, so... yeah, no, net P5. Yeah, I was right. Good. My goodness. It's easy to lose track here with everything that's going on because everyone's on different strategies. Some people pitted on lap 1 under the VSC. Some people pitted, you know, under... it's all going... you know, left, right, and center. It's crazy right now.
Well, yeah, you're no 2 tenths behind. Tim's still yet to make his second stop. I mean, you said he was on for a win here tonight. Austin, you said he was on for second as well. What would you say about his first race in the Precision Tier tonight? What would you really say about it?
Well, it's a good question. I have to say, I think he left a couple of tenths on the road in qualifying. He could have qualified better than P6. P6 is good, don't get me wrong, but I expected a bit more from him. I expected him to qualify maybe in the top 2 rows at the very least, not, you know, second driver in the 3rd row. And in the race, I think maybe it's the rain that makes him struggle a little bit. Maybe his strategy didn't pan out the way he hoped it would. But, yeah, this was a crazy race to begin with. And I think Tim is probably going to come back stronger in 2 weeks then for Canada. And I think he's still a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I don't really want to decriminalize the name, but I'm just going to say this now. Meloy Senna. 7 tenths behind Konzo. A lap ago we were saying that Konzo would not be trouble for Meloy. At the moment, this could be the case. This is actually phenomenal. He's 4 tenths in a lap.
That's why I said he was hoping Konzo would go into the pits.
He's not.
It is a lap and a half, so Konzo did stay out for one more lap. But look at this, Meloy looking to overtake him on track.
Oh,
what is this? If he makes that overtake work, I think all the Senna comparisons are absolutely and fully 100% warranted.
So difficult because this track, isn't it? It's just corner after corner after corner in the wet conditions as well.
That's why if he actually pulls off the overtake, Konzo stays out again, so he gets one more lap to try. Meloy gets another penalty. Yeah, 9 seconds now for Melo, but I don't think that's going to hurt him too much.
Dane's got mediums.
Wait, what?
He's got. There's no rain.
Oh my
he's
god!
Got mediums.
And Chris as well.
Whoa!
And it has stopped. It has stopped raining.
Wow.
Oh my god! It is still. There's still a lot of spray from the track. Obviously, there's still a lot of water on the track, but it has stopped raining out of absolutely nowhere. Here comes Meloy. Is he going to overtake Konzo?
Oh, was it a bit too early? I don't know.
Oh, Konzo spun!
Oh, Konzo spun!
Konzo spun! Oh my goodness, so yeah, Konzo was stuck on the inside there, and unfortunately, I think they touched wheels and Konzo spun around. 10-second time penalty for Chris. What has he? Oh, that was the exit of the Singapore sling there.
Oh my word! Don't even remind me of that. If anybody knows, it's not the greatest flashback for me. I think it's the wrong choice, by the way. The medium tires. Look at Dainstar's lost 5 seconds. He's losing so much time to Tim. It's
too early.
Right. It's way too early, and I think that's Chris in the wall. Must have been, and I think he's got wing. Yep, he's got no wing. It's too early.
However, I think everyone's going to come in now. I think now's the right time. I think Dainstar was just a lap too early. Either this lap or the next one it's going to be really tough, especially for the leaders. I think if you're down behind Dainstar right now, if you're at P 8, 9, 10, I think you go this lap. But if you're in P 1 to 7, I think you might want to stick it out a lap longer because you still see how much. Yep, Meloy stays out. I think you want to stay out on these inters still. Even though he's starting to struggle as well, so maybe... Oh, this is a really tough situation, but there's still spray coming from those tires, so on track, there's still quite a bit of water left.
I think what Dainstar's plan really was this time, because I think he may have accepted defeat. I think he tried doing this maybe to deflect from Carlsbury, because obviously Carlsbury may have been the main challenger for Dane at the end of it, and he may have even got ahead of Dainstar, and as you've seen here, I don't think it's clearly worked. He's losing so much time. He's 36 seconds behind, and he's already coming to the pits there, so it's already starting to show really. Oh my word! Wait, no, that's not Carlsbury, that's the other.
That was
Billy.
Yeah, that was White Load Billy, yeah. That was a ghost car, by the way. That was right ahead of Meloy as well. Meloy was moving on Billy to lap him.
And the mediums.
The ghosted car of Billy runs into the wall, loses a good chunk of his front wing. I'd never seen that before. Well, but yeah, Dainstar back on the inters, and that's going to drop him a whole lot of positions. He's now down to P9. But you see this, it's not raining anymore, but the rain, the water on track is dissipating away so slowly that the inters are still the better tire by far. That is remarkable. I've never seen that on any track, that the water is standing there for so long. Maybe that's the reason, or part of the reason is that Singapore is a street track, and those roads maybe haven't been renewed for 10 years or so. That's why the water isn't sinking in that quickly, and it's still standing there, and it's still intermediate conditions with no rain coming down.
Well, I think I'm sure I'm going to have to deny those claims really about the track, really, because I'm sure, I know what you mean about the street track, but I'm sure that this track is renovated to its best, and obviously we always compare to Singapore as one of the most modern city-states in the world, obviously.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying the track is bad, I'm saying the roads, because you don't renew roads every year, public roads, do you?
That's true,
so,
yeah.
It could be that these roads, last time they've been renewed was about 10 years ago, maybe even longer than that. They're still in a good shape, but they're not, soaking in the rainwater as quickly as you would expect. Certainly not as quickly as you would see it on a proper racing circuit, where obviously the tarmac used is a little bit different in that regard, as it can soak in the water much better. We have that technology by now. We didn't have it in the 90s or 2000s, but we do have it now. But Konzo goes on to the softs meanwhile. The thing is, this might not be that bad as the mediums, because obviously in these conditions the softs don't overheat as much as they would on a dry circuit, because the water still cools them down. But what? I think, again, it's still too early to do that, and staying on the inters as Melo starts sliding around turn 18, turn 19 a little bit there, but still everything under control.
I think we'll soon find out if the softs are better. If we just monitor the Sector 2 and Sector 3, I don't think they're better at the moment as Konzo's just cruising around the track. But this could be crucial, really, because decision-making wise, you've got Carlsberg 4 seconds behind. Does he take that risk to go into the pits and be significantly quicker? Like, who knows?
No, I can tell you right now, Carlsberg is going to mirror whatever Meloy is doing. You know why? Carlsberg knows that the drivers know the penalty situations of the drivers around them. So, if Carlsberg asks Jeff... He knows that Meloy has 9 seconds worth of penalties now. Carlsberg himself has 3, so the net difference is 6 seconds. Meaning, right now, Carlsberg is on pace to win this race.
Wow. So, Meloy needs to find like 2 seconds in these.
A second and a bit, now.
In those ever so drying conditions as well, it's going to be more difficult for these intermediate runners. And that's why we need to keep an eye on Konzo here, because although maybe it's not a race winner for Konzo, you got to think that's a fastest lap point for him in some sense if it does dry. But still, looking at the track, there's still quite a lot of spray around, and the track, just like you said, it just doesn't seem to be drying up like as quickly as some tracks. And like you said, it may be down to the malleability of the road, and obviously as this is a street track and normal roads, and it may not be renovated every year, like you say. But it's very difficult to really tell what is making the roads still so wet. You could argue it's also down to maybe the temperature of the track. You just gotta know really when during the race, and this is where actually temperature could be very, very crucial, especially in conditions like these, because if it's a low temperature like in the air, that could actually come to play of how slowly the track dries up as well.
Well, I think what's more important is the humidity more so than the temperature. And obviously with Singapore being located where it's located, you generally just have a very humid climate there. And the more humid the climate is, the harder the rain or the water that's on the track dries off. If you have a very dry climate, a very dry air... Let's say, for example, if we go to Texas, we go to Kota, generally very dry climate. Singapore, the exact opposite. In the same way that, for example, Malaysia was, where you have also very humid conditions. In that case, the track takes forever to dry. In Kota, the track would be completely dry of any water by now, by 3 laps before already.
Yeah, we've been on this stream, Austin, almost for an hour and a half. This is this is how long this track is, really. And like, I know it's 50% distance, but in the dry, you would have finished the race roughly by now. Like, half the distance in the rain is so much slower than half the distance in the dry. Like, it's ridiculously slower.
Yeah, and even more so in Singapore. Singapore is already the slowest lap on the car. Now, not the longest. That would be Spa, but the slowest, as in average speed. And so add rain to that, and you make it even slower than that. So
just imagine full wet conditions.
This is really a test to the mental fortitude of the drivers. And we're gonna have another one of those next week with our charity race. Which is going to be 100% as Dainstar leaves the session.
Oh, I think he's had internet issues. I mean, in China, there are a few drivers.
His car's looking fine. I'm trying to see the front wing. I think the car's looking fine. I don't think he damaged his front wing anywhere. But I think he
has. Look on the left side.
I can't see it. I'm stuck on a different camera.
Look on the left.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Yeah, left side end plate gone. Yeah.
And unfortunately for Dainstar, he's just not had the weekend he, I guess, was supposed to have. And this is so beneficial for third place, and that's another 15 points clear of Dainstar. And what is that? That's 36 points clear. That's even if Dane wins and doesn't even race, like, it still means that he's still a good old excuse me,
11.
my maths, 11 points clear, and that's still a first to fifth place sort of finish as well, and he's still ahead. So he's basically got a 2-race advantage almost.
Yeah. But the way I like to look at it is a driver able to win the race under their own power? Meaning they finish first, and the championship leader finishes second every race. That's a difference of 7 points. With the fastest lap, 8 points. It would be really close with 5 races left for Danestar to do that. That would be a 40-point gap, and you said it's 36 if Janu finishes in P3 and Danestar finishes outside the points, which right now doesn't look like. It seems like he's going to finish P8 at least. If he's being counted is the question, but I mean, he raced for a long time, and maybe he's got connection issues and he's trying to rejoin. At which point, I think it's probably best to just count him. But that's up to the stewards, and yeah. But that would be 4 points for him. And if you say so, Janu 15, that's 11 more points, so that's 32. That means they would be tied after 4 races if Danestar wins every race and Janu finishes second, and Danestar gets the fastest lap every time.
Just figured out the finale. They're both on the same point. Someone spun the car there. It's a Ferrari. I'm assuming that's Chris again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be Chris. Yep.
Melo's sliding around meanwhile as he's closing up to Konzo now, who has also disconnected.
He's being lapped. He's being lapped.
He's been lapped as well. Next up is I think that's Chris has meanwhile retired the car. I think next is Iceman is next. He's almost 2 laps down here, but that doesn't really matter too much to Meloy. What matters to Meloy is how far away is Carlsberry, and that's just 4.1 seconds. And Carlsberry has not picked up another penalty. He's still on 1 with only 1 additional warning, so he could even afford a second warning and still be perfectly fine.
I'm pretty sure Carlsberg wouldn't want to risk that though, because obviously this is a track, so many corners on this track, and obviously if you make a simple mistake after that point, then you know that's another penalty. That's your win thrown away. The thing for Carlsberg now is he just needs to keep calm and just not concede another penalty, in my opinion, because if he concedes another penalty, the pressure and anxiousness obviously you've got there, then it builds, doesn't it, if you think about it, because if you receive another penalty, that's a win gone, that's a victory gone.
Yeah. You got to keep it clean. Every race, every single race, you have to always keep it clean. As Wildlow Billy gets himself another penalty. I think he's still running... it's still his AI running for him. He's not in the car right now. So interesting that even the AI gets 3-second penalties here.
Don't think that is. I think that's because he's been lapped, so he's ghosted. Ghosting, yeah.
That could be the case as well, yeah. That could very well be the case too. I always think, when I see a ghosted car, I always think, oh, disconnected, okay. Obviously, yeah. Tim Benting, meanwhile, in the pits.
And he's
on lap 29 onto another set of inters. Was he on a...
That's his second stop, I think.
Yeah, he had to. Yeah, he had to. He was the last one. Totally missed that. I'm sorry. He still had to make a second stop, and there, Scorpion now in the final corner. That's not going to be enough, so Tim remains in P5. But yeah, if you make a mistake here, you get yourself another penalty. That would be a win gone in Carlsberry's case, and he has to keep it clean. I'm looking again at his penalty situation. If he did get an additional warning. He's on 2 warnings now. Oh,
the pressure is on.
Oh my goodness, the drama starts off here. Imagine. He's got a lap and a bit to go without an additional warning. Can he do it?
Just imagine the scenes. We come around the final corner, Melo's won the race, and then you just see Carlsberg go wide and pick up that 3-second penalty. I think that would just seal it off, and I think Melo would just think he's just as lucky, just the luckiest person in the world. But if I
was Carlsberg and I get that notification, a 3-second time penalty on the final lap, I'd just throw it into the wall out of frustration. That's just who I am, but hopefully Carlsberg isn't that kind of person.
He is.
By the way, that's why I'm not racing anymore. That's why I'm in the commentary booth.
I wonder how many times this has happened to you then, Austin. Probably about twice.
A couple times.
Have you ever chucked it into your television screen by accident?
No.
Oh,
My
words.
TV is fine.
Just imagine doing that. Like
my PlayStation controllers, that's a different story, but my TV screen's always fine.
Yeah. Well, we are on to the final lap. Meloy right now looks comfortable to take a win at the moment, but penalty-wise, he's not comfortable at all. It's in Carlsberry's favour, but one simple mistake from Carlsberry, such as going wide or going too deep into a corner, could leave Meloy to win this race. Carlsberry just needs to get round this lap and make sure he doesn't lose around 1.5 seconds. He's got a few more corners left to go. I say a few more corners, well, for this track anyway, but in terms of other tracks, a few more corners is basically about the same amount of corners around the entire Austrian Grand Prix still left to go for us, really. But Carlsberry now coming up to the 90-degree corners. Meloy already in them. New Zealand cameras, I've seen there quite a bit. There's been a lot of penalties dished out, so I wouldn't be surprised if Carlsberry does make a simple mistake. But Meloy coming through to the final quarters now. Final two 90-degree corners as he comes into the exit for what should be, I believe, his first one-hub racing win. As he comes around to the final two corners, just must take it nice and clean here. And Meloy will cross the line to take victory here tonight, here in one-hub racing at the Singapore Grand Prix. But Carlsberry will take the lead away from him. And after that, then Austin, we thought that Meloy was going to run away with it. But Carlsberry keeping the pressure on Meloy and takes what is, I believe, a well-deserved victory for Carlsberry, because he really caught up with the rest. You know, in third place as he crosses the line, crashing out there. Cam came on after, a very good performance here tonight in fourth place, and 19 seconds off. There's been a lot of gaps here tonight, which is disappointing in the end, but fourth place for Cam, that's a good result, and maybe to get his season back on track. Tim Wentic on his debut here in the Precision tier after moving down from the Pinnacle tier is set out to finish in 5th place here at the moment, and Scorpion is it. There's a lot of drivers all over the place. It's a long way to go until the final driver crosses the line eventually.
Yeah, there goes Tim Wenting in P5. Scorpion should come across the line very quickly soon as well. There he comes through the final corner. That is P6 for him. NZL Cam, P7. He's going to take a couple seconds there, but there he goes. And that's everyone. And the fastest lap also goes to Carlsberry, so not only does he win, he also gets the fastest lap of the race, at least inside the top 10. I couldn't see who got the fastest lap outside the top 10, but we only have 2 finishes outside the top 10 anyway, with Wideload Billy in P11 rather, and Nexus Iceman in P12.
Well, if I have to give it to any of those two, in my opinion, going off what happened, obviously, I would say Wideload Billy got the fastest lap of the two. However, we didn't really see Iceman's times, really. None of them really threatened the top runners' times of Carlsberry. With 1 minute 52, by the way, which is a stunning time, really, on the wet tyres. But we'll find out which of those two have got it. But here are the race results anyway. I'm just in black screen right now.
Yeah, same. I'm also... There we go.
Carlsberry, who takes a victory here in One Hub Racing, I believe his first of the season and also the first in his One Hub career as well. The Finnish driver getting up to, I believe, second in the championship now, overtaking Dane Star after a poor performance in 8 from him. Meloy in second place again for Meloy. He's literally just wanting that win, but he's not got it here tonight. You know, in third, Cam came on in 4th, Tim Wentic 5th, Scorpion in 6th, New Zealand Cam in 7th, Dane Star from 2nd to 8th. Not good for his championship hopes again, you know, beating him in the race. Lukey in 9th and Konzo in 10th, and I can confirm it was Wideload Billy who got the fastest lap of the 2 finishes outside the top 10. So with that...
Yeah. one more thing to note. Carlsberg does not overtake Dane Star. He closes in, however, by 7 points now. Carlsberg on 64, Dane Star on 71, and Jano in the lead with 103.
Wow, you know, just what a season he's having, you know.
Yeah, Meanwhile, we also need to choose driver of the day. Who are you going to go for?
Well, many people will say I'm going to go for Carlsbury simply because he's winning, but I'm not going to go for Carlsbury. I'm going to go for Count Mom. I was not expecting when he started P16. Obviously, only 17 drivers tonight. Started P16 is virtually at the back, and for him to come home and finish P4, it just shows he just kept out of trouble and he just kept going and kept pushing. And I think 16 to P4, that's a hell of a jump, and what a performance in my opinion from the Haas driver there. So my driver of the day goes to Cam Mom.
Okay, my driver of the day, I mean, I have to choose him, Carlsbury. As much as I was lauding Meloy earlier, if he had stayed clean, I would have gone for Meloy because he was so dominant in the rain, but the moment that the conditions changed, Carlsbury was suddenly there again, and he just kept it clean. He got one penalty worth 3 seconds, and that was ultimately enough to see him through and get the victory from a starting P12.
Yeah.
You don't see that every day. You don't see the guy in P12 on the grid go on and win the race. So I gotta give it to Carlsbury here. Tell us who your driver of the day is. There is going to be a poll on Twitter at OneHub Racing. I think that poll is going to go up tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. So make sure you follow at OneHub Racing on Twitter and make sure you vote in that poll for your favorite, either Carlsbury or Cam Mum. Next up, we're going to have next week no race, at least no championship race, but there is going to be the OneHub charity race. I'm going to be one of the commentators. Alongside me is going to be Kieran McGinley. And we're going to have 20 drivers around my home Grand Prix, the German Grand Prix. And it's going to be 100. It's going to be full qualifying, so we're going to have 3 qualifying sessions, as in the real F1. We're going to have 100% race, and Kieran and I are going to control the weather and the time.
I didn't even realise that one. You controlling the weather and the time.
We are setting the weather and the time of the race.
And just do not reveal to anyone. Do not reveal your plans.
No. That will be. You will all know once we load into qualifying what weather's going to be in qualifying, and you will know in the race what weather will be in the race, but not before that. But that's going to be a lot of fun. The next championship race here on the channel, at least for the precision tier, and obviously all the other tiers as well, is going to be in 2 weeks. The Canadian Grand Prix at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. I gotta say, one of my absolutely most beloved tracks all time, and I think a lot of drivers just love to drive around it because it's exactly the opposite of Singapore. It's fast, it's still narrow, but it's fast, it's challenging. I mean, Singapore's challenging as well, but it's got nice combinations going. It's got a good rhythm to it, and you can overtake there, so that's fun. But yeah, that's going to be in 2 weeks, May 22nd. May 15th is going to be the charity race. All the information on that, you just go to oneupracing.com. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to this YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the like button. And most importantly, we still have another race going on. Right now, the Pinnacle tier is on. And I don't know who's commentating. I should know this, but
Alex Lilliard, I think.
Alex, yeah, of course it's Alex. Alex Lilliard commentating. Make sure to watch that as well. That is the creme de la creme of OneHub Racing right now. Make sure to watch them. And from us here at the Precision tier, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you either next week for the charity race or in 2 weeks for the Canadian Grand Prix.
Yep.